Peace, y'all. Before we start this episode of Real Notes, I wanted to let you know that my first book ever, Real Notes Culture Writing on the Margins of Music and Movies, is out right the fuck now. That shit feels so crazy to say. About 2-ish years ago, my good homie Austin Williams approached me about writing a primer on the worlds of digital journalism, criticism, and how they interact for his journalism students, and naturally, I jumped at the opportunity. This book is part autobiography, part journalism textbook, and part essay collection spotlighting some of my earlier work, particularly from my old stomping grounds over at djbooth.net. This industry has always been unstable, but with layoffs and general consolidations happening at publications all over, this book feels more pertinent now than it did while I was writing it. And while it may be for students, anyone who's a fan of writing, music, film, and this podcast, of course, will appreciate it. The book is only available digitally through the Kindle app and through the Amazon link below. So go to Amazon, search for Real Notes Culture Writing on the Margins of Music and Movies, and just add that shit to your collection, man. No, you don't need to have a Kindle in order to read the book. Either download the Kindle app or you can access it through the Amazon one-click link. So many people have been asking me, like, you don't need to own a Kindle. I promise I wouldn't do that to y'all. Just, like, grab the book if you can, if you're able. Good looks if you can. I really appreciate your support and consideration. It means the world. Now let's get back to talking. What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guests this week are New Jersey via Massachusetts rapper-producer NAHreally and Dublin producer and engineer The Expert. We spoke about Netflix reality shows, Severance, Tropic Thunder, Silo, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, He Got Game, Above the Rim, the legacy of Stones Throw and Madvillainy, their respective journeys through rap, joining forces creatively, and the process behind their debut collaborative album Blip, out now via Rucksack Records. Come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to Real Notes, Saturday edition. It's always nice to kind of, like, I was just telling my guests off camera about this, but like, it's nice to be able to like record on weekends when you don't have like much to do. And like, I'm not like, cause like this freelance shit is like an 8-hour, or no, it's like an 8, 9, 10-hour a day job thing. That's how I treat it. Cause I have like so many jobs, but like, it's nice to just be able to wake up, eat breakfast, drink a lemonade, watch some Drag Race, and then come do a thing and not have 8 other things I got to take care of. So, you know, it's Dylan Green, CineMasai, got a lot of names, do a lot of shit, the outside, inside, all sides, places. And I'm with 2 people today who are also all over the place, geographically, musically, mentally, just kicking it. You know, I've been a fan of both of these dudes for quite a while. One of them I've met in person several times. That's the homie. Other is the homie, but we've never met. He's all the way over out in Ireland and has been killing shit for the last like 4 or 5 years. They both put out an incredible project called Blip over on Rucksack Records. Please go find it. We got NAHreally and The Expert here. Thank y'all for being here, man. Like it's like I was saying off camera, like I appreciate it. It means a lot. This project's fantastic and I'm happy to talk to you about it. So thanks for all y'all doing. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting
Thanks
us.
for having us, for real.
Yeah, nah, man. Before we start, I just realized, not really, I don't know your real name. What's your real name, bro? Mike. Okay. Cause I've known you long enough that I don't know your real name, and that's sad to me because our mutual friend Mike Digi booked me to host a show that you put together maybe about like a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that.
It was June, maybe even June of last year. It might be less than a year ago.
It was June of last year because it was right after I had Jamonte on, and Jamonte hit me and he put me in touch with Mike Digi, and they were like, "Oh yeah, NAHreally put it together," and I was like, you know, and like from there I went and heard Hacking Away, and I was like, yeah, I'm in the right spot. So, you know, like it's been beautiful to build with you over the last like year and a half, and like to see it culminate in this moment for the both of y'all, like Mike and Kian, like y'all, yeah, it just makes me so happy to see like the response that this record's got. So just congrats and on everything, and thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Nah, definitely. So yeah, like the first, I'm gonna ask y'all the first question I ask everybody who comes on here, which is what's the last movie or TV show y'all watched that you had a strong opinion about?
I can give you, I have a high-minded one and a low-minded one. Or
That's fine, bro.
I'm gonna hit you with the low-minded because I got a axe to grind. And I feel like I got duped not too long ago by watching the live action Squid game show on Netflix. And I know, I'm so down in the dirt, but I just haven't had a chance to really, air out my grievances. And it just felt like a naked usurpation of my time. They just stole 10 hours from me, but kept me hooked in such a way that I couldn't leave. And it just felt like the logical end of the streaming business model of just like, you're going to hate all 10 hours, but you're going to sit through them. And that was a strong opinion in reaction to that. Cause I hated it.
see that's crazy because like my sister watched it. I haven't seen the Squid Game show and I haven't seen the reality show, but just like hearing what it's about and just like the idea that it's a reality show based on a show about a life or death reality like just like the Ouroboros of fucked up capitalistic like time sink bullshit is just like it makes me sick. But I would sit there and watch it for 10 hours too,
because you got to know what happens.
Yeah, like Netflix really did hit something crazy with these like I love a good Netflix reality show. I love a good Netflix competition show. Like I don't know what it is. Like if it's like Nailed It seems like kind of conventional, but the one that got me, there's this one called Blown Away that's like it's all about it's about glass blowing. They just get like glass blowers to come and do their thing for and like I don't give a shit about glass blowing. I didn't give a shit about it before I watched the show, but like I'm watching it and just seeing the people like at the I'm like in the ovens and like working these beautiful works of art, and I want to know everything about glass blowing now. Like like it's almost more. It's like almost more addictive to me than a cooking show. It's weird because like it's just I never would have expected that I'm here. Like I guess that's me being more optimistic about the thing, but like it's because it's also less of like a soul crushing like don't forget you're here forever type situation that like the Squid Game shit is. But
yeah, the glass blowing one sounds like sort of a beautiful thing. A magnifying glass into like a corner of the world you would have never seen previously.
Them critiques be harsh though, bro. Like they're not nice, especially once it gets down to like the nitty. They can be really cruel. Like it's just like it gets really nitpicky, and it has to. But like I don't know, it is what it is. Excuse me.
I suppose the last film I went to was it was Dune 2, and I really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was really good. Did it have a major effect on me? I suppose that bit where he gets on the worm was pretty cool. I thought in the cinema like that really was kind of special actually. So that was kind of cool. And then at the moment I'm like 8 episodes into this program called Silo. That has got of course bad guy Common in it. But it's got Rebecca Ferguson, Tim Robbins. Who else is in it? But like, yeah, it's kind of a sci-fi thing on Apple. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I kind of like it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just have any of you seen it?
No, not yet. Cause my dad watches it and he's been like telling me to tap in. Like I can't tell you how long my list of like you need to see this shows is. Like I have an easier time. I have an easier time blowing through my movie list because like a movie is like it's like a 2-hour commitment that's not going to take you 3 weeks to watch. Like that's why I'm like I love TV obviously, but like it's like that's. But Silo's been on my list for a while, and so villain Common. I think Common always plays incredible villains. He's so good at it, and I don't know why. Because he was the villain in John Wick. Either y'all seen John Wick 2?
No, I've seen the first one. That's it.
So in John Wick 2, he's like an assassin who's trying to kill Keanu Reeves. And there's a scene where the two of them, like there's a fight scene that takes place in a train station, right? And the two of them are like, Common's like above walking through a crowd. Keanu Reeves is on the ground floor walking through a crowd. The two of them start having a gunfight in the middle of a crowd, but they both have silenced pistols, and they're just like they'll be like looking at each other all stealthily, and then one of them will just lift the gun and go like in the middle of the crowd, and it's just like them trading shots between. It's just insane, and it's so silly, like it's ridiculous, but like he sells it. I don't know, like maybe it's just the face, maybe it's the baldy, I don't know, but he's got Common's different, man.
He seems to have that part down now. He gets asked to be in a lot of stuff as a kind of bad guy, so he's found his niche, or niche in movies, it seems.
Totally. But how do you like Silo? Because I am curious and checking it
out.
Yeah,
no, I definitely, from what I've seen so far, I'd recommend it. Yeah, like touches of like, but in general, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, because what's it called? My partner loves everything on Apple TV, and I don't tap in as much as I should, but it seems like Apple TV's got like a really strong roster of like shows,
that other show is like the best thing I've seen in years on it. Oh my god, what was it?
Severance.
Whoa.
Severance is loose, man.
Incredible.
I can't. It got delayed in filming, and I'm not up on streaming news and whatever, but when I saw that come across, I was gutted. I was like, I would need that back. I would need Severance back in my life, because man, I was glued to
that show is brilliant. Yeah.
See,
and I was blown away by the direction as well. I didn't know Ben Stiller was like that amazing, but he's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild, because when I first heard about it, like I'm a big Charlie Kaufman fan. That's giving me like huge Being John Malkovich vibes. Yeah. So like I was like, all right, like I need to watch this, and I just never did. My sister pulled me to the side while I was home and was like, we need to watch some Severance. And I was like, okay, fine, like let's sit down, do it. We make it like 4 episodes in, and I'm like, this is some of the coolest shit I've the fact that a big company would devote bread to something like that, like even if I didn't like it, I would be watching it just because I want more people to get opportunities to make cool shit like that. I
totally agree with you though, how the level of artisticness, if that's what is rarely seen in TV, so it's amazing that they kind of allow the opportunity to kind of continue.
And it's funny we're talking about Ben Stiller as a director, because recently I forget why it came up, but I started thinking about Tropic Thunder again recently, and like he wrote and directed Tropic Thunder.
Right. I didn't know that. Damn.
Yeah, like apparently he came up with the idea in like the 90s and like sat on it for 15 years, and then Universal gave him the money to make the movie. And I remember what I was thinking about it, because I remember when it came out. It's really funny, really insightful movie. I haven't seen it in years, but of course, like the whole Robert Downey Jr. in blackface thing, I have a lot of feelings about it, but I understand why they made the joke they did. Like, I get it. It's about method acting, but I also don't blame anybody who doesn't want to watch a white man in blackface. Like, it's fucked up. I have a lot of feelings about if you're white, don't take it upon yourself to do that unless it's gonna be the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I really hope people don't get mad at me for that, but that movie was funny as shit. The Simple Jack shit aside, because that's just plain not funny. They shouldn't have done that. But yeah. Anyway,
it's crazy. Ben Stiller, it is wild though. It is wild, because what was that? 07, 06?
06, yeah, something like that. I was in high school. So, yeah.
There were, I was a young kid, and so there were definitely people who immediately saw it and were like, this is fucked up for multiple reasons. But it's just fascinating to think that that's less than 20 years ago, and that flew and was like pretty much like widely just like, yep, we're good.
He got nominated.
He
got nominated for an Oscar off of that, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, what?
I'm fairly positive. Okay, let me go double check and be sure, but I think he might have gotten an Oscar nomination for it. Like, once again, great bit of acting. Like, I get the joke, but
yeah.
Yeah, but it's happened so many times that's not even a joke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, like I've talked about it a lot on the show, but like the movie Bamboozled, I don't know if either of y'all have seen it, the Spike Lee movie.
No, I actually haven't seen that one.
So everyone needs to watch Bamboozled. Like it's not like go watch it right now, but long story short, it's a movie about a black executive who works at a TV network who works for like a really racist white boss. He's played by Michael Rappaport, who's basically like playing himself. I don't think he knows that, but he's basically playing himself. And the other guy's one of the Wayans brothers. I forget. I think it might be Damon Wayans. So he wants to get fired from his job. And he decides to approach them with like the most racist idea for a TV show he can, which is like he makes like he calls it a new millennium minstrel show. He gets Savion Glover and Tommy Davidson to come in and play these two characters named Mantan and Sleep and Eat, and they eat watermelon and they paint their faces black. And they they make it like a minstrel show they show on TV. In the movie, they get the Roots to be the house band. They call themselves the Alabama Porch Monkeys.
What year was this?
This is 2002. Spike Lee made it, wrote and directed,
and it gets greenlit in the movie.
Of course, the show gets greenlit. Wow. You know, it gets greenlit. It becomes a hit. Like they put it up on the billboard in Times Square. Like white people show up to the show in black. It's a crazy fucking movie.
All right, I'm watching. Like, I'll watch that tonight.
It's insane, bro. Like it was, to me, it's maybe the best. Like it's the best Spike Lee movie that isn't Do the Right Thing or Malcolm X or Mo Better Blues. Like it's one of those, you know. But the first time I saw it, I watched about half of it and I had to take a break. I don't take breaks during movies. I had to pause it, take a breath. It's really a lot. It's incredible stuff though. Like really, really sharp satire that like this movie's 22 years old and it feels like it could have been made yesterday. Like Spike, the stars aligned.
What else was he making around this time? I kind of feel like I probably clocked off around, you know. Is this when he's like an Inside Man maybe or something else? Or
this is like it was like 3 years before Inside Man. I think this might have been around the time of 25th Hour with Ed Norton. He made Malcolm X might have been 6 or 7 years before this. He might have made the movie about he might have made the documentary about the church bombings around this time. I can't remember, but it was like the early 2000s. But I didn't mean to get too far off track. I just kind of caught a zone real quick.
Yo, can I give you my high-minded?
Please. I was gonna ask. Yeah, please.
Last night I watched Zone of Interest.
Still haven't seen it. I'm watching it in the next 2 days.
Yeah, you know what? Well, first off, let me just say this. Scrolling through streaming and I saw 1 hour 45 minutes. I was like, yes, okay, let's roll.
Thank you.
And so I won't say too much, but it's
Is this a new movie? Sorry, I'm oblivious.
Yeah, it's a new movie. It's about the guy who ran Auschwitz, but about his inner family life, which is very strange juxtaposition. And it's I don't want to say too much if neither of you have seen it, but you know, it's like taking the monster off of the pedestal, but kind of at the same time by doing that, like underscoring how monstrous it all is.
Okay.
Yeah. Like imagine, I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've heard and seen, imagine they made a movie about a serial killer and the whole movie is just like the serial killer living their life.
Yes,
that's basically what the Zone of Interest is, from what I've heard.
No, you're right, and it's a strange experience because it's about the regular everydayness of this horrible historical figure's life, and it's just sort of there's like a literal physical juxtaposition in the movie that you watch and witness the whole time, and an oral AURAL juxtaposition. It's a lot. you'll enjoy it, but not in a enjoyable way.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up in the same breath as like Bamboozled, because like those are movies that you watch and enjoy and appreciate, but you'll never want to watch it again. It's a one and done, you know?
No,
Yeah.
never, no.
Some of the best movies ever are that type of stuff, though.
Yeah,
Like, when you talk about impactful, like so many great movies you want to see once or twice, and like, yeah, I'm done. I don't need that again. This is so powerful often. Yeah.
Like that's how I feel about like Requiem for a Dream. Like
exactly.
I'll never need to watch Requiem for a Dream again, but it's great, you know. Like Darren Aronofsky did his thing, even though I feel like Darren Aronofsky's like, he's kind of like judgmental sometimes in like the way he makes his movies, like because like he examines these like particularly with Requiem for a Dream, like the movie's about addiction, but it also kind of feels like he's like judging people for being addicted to it's weird, but it's a good movie. It's just I don't know, like I want to go back and rewatch it, but I also don't. But
I've watched that movie Pi a few times. He's done. That's great, I think.
Which one?
Pi.
Oh, Pi is nuts. Pi is so good.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, and that was like
dope director.
Yeah, that was his first movie ever too. Like for that to be like your entrance, yeah, you're gonna do. And also, you ever seen Noah? His Noah's Ark movie?
Is that the one that just came out a couple of years ago?
Something like that. Like maybe, so like so yeah, like they got Darren Aronofsky to like make a Noah's Ark movie, and like the first it's like a 2.5 hours. The first like hour and a half is the typical story. Like they depict him, so like they have him they go through all the events, like like he hears the word from God, he meets up with like the heathens out in the desert, and is like, okay, like okay, I gotta make the ark. And like they treat him meeting God as like this, like as opposed to him meeting some like benevolent figure, it's like they treat it like he had a bad mushroom trip and he just like kind of interpreted whatever he interpreted from this like demon he met in his brain, and he's like, I gotta go make an ark. And his family just believes in him, so they make the ark, the animals come on, and then they just kind of go to sleep and you never see him again. And it's just like his family on the ark, and at this point he's so hopped up on what God told him to do that he becomes like a serial killer, more or less. And like his family is trapped on the ark with him while he's kind of not in his right mind. It's incredible. Like I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did. I'm not religious at all, but like I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did. But it's nuts. It's like, and it was in IMAX too. It's pretty insane. And Russell Crowe went some like they went full Old Testament with it, you know, like in terms of like the nitty gritty. Like it's a rough, it's a good time, but it's like it's definitely like Old Testament Bible stuff, like the TVMA version, like the Game of Thrones version of the Bible. It was pretty tight. I liked it.
I love that. Sounds so interesting. Like I just think of the word like fanatical, right? And like that's the word. That is, and like it's like that's like looked on as like a good thing in so many ways, but like you can take that in the total a good thing, you know, in the lore of like, you know, the Bible or history, you know, fanatics are ones who made these big changes or whatever, but it seems like he just turned it on its head. Like that's so dope to me. Like you're a crazy person, if that, you know, in a lot of ways too. So
right, it's like right on the border, you know, like between devout faith and just like psychosis, you know, like right on the razor's edge. And like that's, you know, like I'm always interested in that type of stuff. And speaking of which, 2 days ago I saw Immaculate, the Sydney Sweeney nun movie that just came out. And like I think it's pretty obvious what it's about from the title. She's a nun, she shows up at a convent, she gets pregnant, she's a virgin, never had sex, and of course everyone's like, you're the next coming of Virgin Mary, da 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 da. It turns into a horror movie. I don't want to spoil it. Go see it. She could do a whole, like, she's the reason to see the movie. Like she also has this like blind devout faith thing going on, but it's shown as like a little more positive. Like it's not like, you know, like they don't imply that she's got like something broken with her for feeling that way. They imply that everybody around her is broken in the way that they exploit religion in ways that I won't spoil. But the last 5 minutes, I can't imagine seeing a movie that's more intense than the last 5 minutes of Immaculate this whole year. Like there's like this unbroken shot of her doing stuff that I don't go watch it if you can.
I want to check.
Crazy.
I want to check that one. And it's so funny. I don't gravitate toward those sorts of movies, but just I don't know. Something about it. So, and I saw you talking about it on Instagram, Minute Maid, like after, and I was like,
yeah,
I think I got to see this one.
I watched that movie with her recently called Reality. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think I've even heard of it.
It's like, I think it's only about 80 minutes. That's why I was kind of like, oh, I'm in. And it's basically a conversation. It's based on true events of a complete conversation of when someone is stopped by the CIA or the FBI? And from the very start of the conversation, when they meet her outside her house for the whole 80 minutes, questioning her about something she did at her workplace.
It's about Reality Winner, right?
Yeah. So I don't know this person.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So she was a whistleblower.
Yeah.
A whistleblower for. I remember it though, and the dialogue is entirely from the transcript. No writing.
Yeah, it's so wild to see. Just because obviously I'm from Ireland, so it's so different over here. But like the first 20-30 minutes of how, sorry if it's the FBI or the CIA, but how they question her for the first 20 minutes and kind of the questions she doesn't ask back. It's just so fucked, man, that people can like approach you like that. And I just found that whole situation just so bizarre. Yeah, really strange. I thought it was a really brave movie actually from the filmmaker and her to have kind of starred in it. Yeah, I recommend watching it.
Where can I find that?
I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, and
cool.
I think it's actually HBO. I think HBO, Netflix, something, but and it's also short.
Yeah, 80 minutes, like a max 90. Yeah, that's why I was like, oh, I'm in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and Immaculate was like an hour and a half. And it's like it's like like to me, I don't think long movies are necessarily a bad thing, but if your movie's 90 minutes, perfect, like it's not every movie needs to be 3 hours. Like you can like tell your point, make your case, make it entertaining, make it impactful, be done in 90 minutes. Like that's almost more impressive to me.
Yeah,
like
it's terrible that even the really long ones, whether Irishman or what's the new one you don't like, if it's over 3 hours, like I'm gonna struggle to actually sit down and do that, even if it's the best film ever. I just I just don't have 3 hours to just sit down.
That's when I bust out that's when I hit the movie theater with the dinner. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
I saw Killers of the Flower Moon at iPic Fulton. And it's like they give you like a hot tub and they like serve you food. It's not a real hot tub, but it's like it's a real hot tub. That's the idea. But so we saw that because we really wanted to see it, and that felt like a capital M movie, a theater movie, and we were like, how can we make this as smooth as possible? So we did Sunday matinee, had lunch there, and we were like, all right, this is how you do it. Those big 3 hour movies. So
yeah,
is it amazing?
I really enjoyed it. I think we set ourselves up to enjoy it too, because I could see if I was in like a worse physical situation, I might not have liked it as much. But like we went in ready and we made sure that we were ready. And yeah, I thought it was good. I think it's it's so funny. So many movies like that. I said capital M movie, and that's like how I felt about it. It's like, all right, everyone, here we are. We're doing a movie right now, and this is a movie. Did you realize we're making a movie right here? Like it's just very much like that, which is fine. And Scorsese has earned that. So
So I saw it too. I enjoyed it. I appreciate what it was trying to do. Obviously that's a story that a lot of people don't know, and like that's also like pretty much about the birth of the FBI. Like the movie itself doesn't say that, but like that's actually like the FBI was born from everything that happened with the Osage. But like I've said this a couple times, I guess I'm gonna say it again. Because like I felt the same way about that as I felt about Oppenheimer, like in the sense that like these are movies about white men who did bad things, which like, yes, we need to know the history. It's important to know this stuff. This isn't for me because like I know these things happen. I've experienced things. I mean, like not on that level, obviously, but like, you know, like these are it's almost it almost feels more like watch me feel guilty about something terrible I did for 3 hours. Like, I mean, like the movie's obviously wrecking with the stuff too, but it's, I don't know. I'm like, I wasn't in a rush to see Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I was in a rush to see Oppenheimer was because I wanted to do that and Barbie back to back, which I didn't get to do, and I'm sad about it because I think I saw them like 2 days apart. But you know, like, I mean, Scorsese, legend. Christopher Nolan, legend. Like, technically beautiful movies, really well acted. This just isn't like, it's not for me. Like, I'm seeing it because I want to talk about it and be involved, but like
Yeah,
I didn't.
I'm just
Yeah.
glad Ireland won. You know, Killian brought it home.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
He's
That's
deserved it for
real.
years too.
yeah. So it's kind of crazy at such a small country. Yeah. So he was loved here anyway, but like, no
Of
kind of
course.
superhero stuff.
Okay, so now before we move on to my next question, I gotta ask because I heard there were rumors that Cillian Murphy was gonna be James Bond, and like I saw somebody on Twitter mention something like, you know, like Cillian Murphy is like, I think somebody was just like, Cillian Murphy's like the most Irish person ever, like he would
He
never
wouldn't
do
do it.
no shit like that. Like
Yeah,
the thing
it's
that
true
got
though.
me, yeah. Like the thing that got the thing that got me was somebody was just like, Cillian Murphy's the person who like moved his family back to Ireland because his children started to develop British accents. Like he's not playing James Bond. And like I didn't like fully understand why that was funny until I looked it up, and then I was like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. Like but yeah, I can imagine that's a little
Yeah,
contentious, you know.
he's very pro Ireland in a good way. Yeah.
That's tight. I love that.
Well, did you see on Twitter? I saw on Twitter a while back, like Cillian Murphy on his radio show was like playing Billy Wood songs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I was just
He's been
like,
DJing for years. Yeah.
yeah, good for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, yeah. See, I had no idea he had been DJing, but I saw that going around, and it just made me smile. Like, you know, it's just like that's just another person like pushing that out, like hearing him on like BBC Extra or whatever, like just pushing Billy Woods, nuts. That's beautiful. I love that. So let's take it. So yeah, let's take it all the way back with the both of y'all. What's the first movie experience that the both of y'all can remember having? It could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house. Like just the first thing that comes to mind for you.
Wow. First movie. Like I remember kind of, this gonna sound crazy maybe, but I remember going to see the first ever Batman and kind of being freaked out by when Jack Nicholson fell in the acid
Ah, see, I get it.
because I was like crazy young.
Yeah, no, that's a like that's a really scary scene just to like for anybody really. Like all those Tim Burton Batman movies are like just like super duper like it really is like funhouse horror shit on acid, you know? Like
Mm,
I get it.
yeah. But I'm sure there's other ones before that, but I remember that's a memory that's really stayed with me. I remember the first movie I like would have spent my own money to go see multiple times was The Fugitive. I remember just being blown away by it.
Ooh.
Just like, I gotta see that again. And I loved Harrison Ford because of everything. But yeah, so I remember going to see that a few times.
So how many times did you see The Fugitive?
Probably like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I would have gone to
That's
cinema
fire.
to see it. Yeah, amazing movie. It still holds a very nostalgic place for me, that movie.
Man, see, I've seen it a handful of times. I really like it. I want to watch it again because it's just like been too long. But just like
Mm,
the like that one in particular, like the amount of times it's been referenced in things, like even to this day, like just like anytime anybody jumps off a waterfall, I think of The Fugitive. Like that's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
like that's one of those like pivotal foundational scenes of the last like 20, 30 years in movies to me personally.
yeah.
I think,
Yeah,
Mike, yeah.
that's me.
I
How about
think,
you, Mike?
I think for me, I got a home movie memory is Aladdin. A specific thing about it. They're flying through that tunnel and Aladdin says to Abu, maybe,
The
I don't know.
monkey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says start panicking, and I thought that they said star Padigan, and I asked my parents over and over, what is a star Padigan? What is a star Padigan? And long story short, they watched it and told me that it was start panicking. But anyway, that's just a silly one. But I think the earliest theater one was Godzilla 2000. I remember seeing,
Wow.
and I assume it came out in 2000, and I remember it had Rage Against the Machine, No Shelter, which I was at age 9. I was really pumped about. We went to see it in theaters. I fell asleep in Godzilla. So yeah, that's definitely an early memory. I definitely remember hitting Godzilla 2000 with my dad and just being mind blown. And then the next thing I know, I was being woken up during the credits.
Wow. That's like I can't ever imagine falling asleep in the middle of a Godzilla movie. And it's crazy that you got to see that in theaters, because I remember the trailer for that, and like I remember being like excited about it, because the other one, the other Godzilla that came out in like 96 with like Matthew Broderick and like Hank Azaria, where like the where the Raptors go into Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Like not a great movie, killer soundtrack, not a great movie, but I remember being like really excited about seeing Godzilla 2000. And I think I might have like seen it at a friend's house like 2 years later or something like that. But
it was good, and I ended up seeing it like later because I was pretty young. Like I don't even know if I should have been seeing it in theaters, but I remember seeing it a few years later and just feeling so dumb. Like, how did I fall asleep during this as a kid? So yeah.
yeah, no, it happens. I've fallen asleep. I've fallen asleep in stranger places, so I totally get it. Did you, before we move on, did you see Godzilla -1 by
I
any
know
chance?
I want to. I really that's on my list. It's that's a tough one to convince my partner. We often watch movies together, and so that one.
Mhm.
But I heard such good things about it. So is it good?
It's tight. Yeah, no, it's more or less a remake of the first Godzilla. Yo, my fault. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to shout out the all-new Real Notes Patreon page real quick. If you're looking for ways to connect and directly support the podcast, the Real Notes Patreon is the best way to do so. For as little as $5 a month, you can gain early day-before access to every forthcoming episode of Real Notes, as well as an invite to the Real Notes Discord server, where you can talk to others about the latest and greatest in movies and music, come through for some listening sessions, and talk about whatever else is on your mind. I know I'm going to be talking a bunch. If you feel like coming up off a little bit more, you could get cool exclusive content like audio from Real Notes Live and Real Talk interviews. Those will be exclusive to patrons and ticket holders moving forward. Access to retro versions of my 60-second Minute Maid movie reviews, and even a monthly writing and podcasting workshop hosted by me. Regular episodes will still be available on a weekly basis anywhere you get your podcasts, but if you want the extras, you gotta come out them pockets a bit. Check us out at patreon.com/realnotes. That's REELNOTES. I appreciate your consideration and support more than you know. Now let's get back to talking. And it's like it's one of those where it's less about like Godzilla versus Kong or like Megalon or Ghidorah or whoever. It's more about the implications of like the bomb and like how that kind of fucked everything up, and how Godzilla's kind of like the specter of nuclear war. Like that's like it's on that type of time, which is why I think it's caused so much why like there's been so much buzz, and like it looks gorgeous. Like the movie cost like $10 million and it looks better than like the last 4 Marvel movies that came out. It looks incredible. You know, like Godzilla himself, and just like the scale of everything. You could tell a lot of work went into it, and they were like creative and crafty with how it came together, and that's not easy to do. And they won the best special effects Oscar, and yeah, it's worth it.
Did they take a different approach to special effects than like what's common in, say, a Marvel movie, or they just did a better job with the same technology?
I think they might have just done a better job with the same technology. Like it might have been a bit of both, because like, you know, it's not like they have somebody in the rubber suit like they used to like back in, you know, that would have, like that would have been a little sillier than I think they could have pulled off and still had it be like as serious and impactful as they wanted it to be. But I was like, I don't really know all the. I'd actually be really interested to watch like behind the scenes and like to see how they did it. But it's just like you could just tell that they didn't have a huge budget, and they just used their money in the smartest way they could. You know, like some people, you give somebody $50 million and they'll spend 48 million making sure like an eyelash on somebody's face looks perfect. You know, like you and then like you give somebody else 10,000 and they'll spread that 10,000 out as flat as they can. And you're like, it's just like, you know, like the $10,000 movie will look better than the $50 million movie. You know, that's just how it goes sometimes.
I love that though. That's like the beauty of it.
Right. Yeah. No, like that's, you know, that's how, like that's what shows that you know what you're doing, and you can like just being able to work under those, you know, like it's the same thing with music, like being able to just do just like being able to make two pennies stretch as far as you can. Like that's always going to be more impressive to me. You know, like the shit that somebody makes on like a SP in their basement, or like just like stuff ripped from like YouTube to MP3 player, is, you know, like if you can take that and make it sound amazing, like you can do anything. Yeah. Like 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 if I give you Logic or Pro Tools, then you know, like the sky's the limit after that, you know, like. But yeah, go yeah, Godzilla's great. I'll watch anything Godzilla related. So
yeah, I got to tap in with that big time.
Hell yeah. So as y'all start to get a little older and have more life experiences and just start to, you know, your brain start to develop a bit more, like I'm gonna ask about a capital M movie, like the first capital M movie you saw that like impacted you. And like, you know, and that could either be in like an artistic or spiritual or emotional sense, just like the thing that hit you in the chest and it was like, this is a film type shit, you know.
Trying to think back. I'm reaching back in the archives right now.
Well, the first movie I remember just really having an impact on me, and I still think about all the time, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Just how kind of marvelous a world would be if you could go to a place like that, and just always thinking how Charlie Bucket is kind of like the good guy who wins, and really, you know, feeling like that's quite a life affirming attitude if something like that was to take place. And yeah, I don't know, just the wonder of it always stayed with me. And as a capital M, obviously I know it's really old now, it's probably really dated if anyone watches now, but when I was young and I saw it, it just had a huge impact on me.
Yeah, I get it. It's like that, like to me that movie is really timeless. Like I feel I feel like anybody could watch that and kind of get something from it now. I think the last time I saw it, I watched it with my dad while me and my family were like decorating for Christmas, because he loves that movie. And he loves Pure Imagination. He loves the whole soundtrack. So like that's a movie I've seen a bunch because of that. And like rewatching it recently, like like the character of Charlie Bucket, he's just so pure, and he's just like so good and wholesome, and like like everything with the dude who's trying to steal the gobstopper, and just like him, you know, like he's like he does the right thing, but he tries to do the right thing, but it's not in like a malicious way. They let him and the grandpa make the mistake of drinking the soda, and you know, like he's pure, but he's not perfect. You know, like he makes a mistake, and I don't know, there's like something in that just shows that, like, you know, like we're gonna fuck up even when we want to do the right thing. Like we all get excited. And then his grandpa is a piece of shit. Because his grandpa is awful, because he was laid up in bed for years talking about I can't help around the house, you got to make me all this food. As soon as that boy came home with that golden ticket, you know how hard it is to click your heels. Like, like this like 60, 70-year-old man gets out of bed and starts clicking his heels like he's Fred Astaire, and I'm just like, I'm just like, if I was Charlie, I would have had some questions. I would have been like, Grandpa, you're not coming to this factory, man. I'm gonna take the I'm gonna take my aunt with me instead. That was his golden ticket.
Yeah.
I was a little tight. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, no, Charlie, yeah, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is such a like. I know like Roald Dahl is also a huge piece of shit, but like I know he had a lot of feelings about it, but it doesn't matter what he felt because that movie's important and it's special, and the Oompa Loompa song is gonna be stuck in my head for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of a bit of a strange one. We brought up Spike Lee earlier, and I know this isn't his best movie, but it's my favorite of his. I was such a big basketball head in my early teens and like throughout my teens, and I remember seeing He Got Game, and I feel like the word gritty is overused talking about movies, but
Definitely.
I think that was like one of the earlier examples of a movie that I saw and my brain had developed to a point that I could sort of understand the complicated characters and like complicated figures in it. Like, you know, particularly Denzel, his dad, Jake.
Yeah.
And just, you know, it was like my first gritty movie, you know, and I was and I definitely watched it with my parents, and there's definitely some nudity that made me feel really uncomfortable at like 13 or whatever. But
that's incredible.
And it's funny because like I don't think that's really considered canon for Spike Lee. It's a solid movie. I love an NBA player cameo still to this day, and I think
of course, bro,
he's a good actor in it.
Yeah, he did his thing. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, and so that one is funny. Like, yeah, that one for me, that kind of it turned me on to the idea of like seeing the ugly and weird and strange sides of humanity in a movie. Something that, you know, previously I was watching like, you know, at most like I saw like The Mummy. I was like, oh, that, you know, it's just like different. And then you kind of get to something where it's like sort of a, you know, illustration and dissection of like the human condition in a way I wouldn't have understood the year before. So that's definitely one of them for me.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's like real ground level. My dad had every Spike Lee movie from School Days up until Bamboozled on DVD, and he never opened them. So like I just saw him in my cabinet like for years, and one day in high school I was like, I'm gonna just watch these. Like he's like, why are these just wrapped? You know, like it's not like he was like collecting them for like some. So and like He Got Game was one of the first. I think it was that, Do the Right Thing, and it was them two. Them two were the first ones, and like He Got Game is just, that movie's so soulful. It's got a really cool soundtrack. Like Denzel with hair is always a weird thing to see, but I think that's one of his best. That's one of his best hair performances of all time. I think it's like that and Malcolm X, I would say.
And Rosario Dawson, good in it.
And always, she's good in everything.
And it's so funny. When I first moved to New York, it was like 2015 or whatever. I wanted to go to Coney Island so bad because of He Got Game, which I feel like it's not the reason why people want to go to Coney Island per se. But I was like, I gotta go to Coney Island because I saw it in He Got Game.
It's either that or the Warriors, bro.
Yeah, true.
So have you gone to Coney Island since? I mean, like I know they're about to like close it or whatever, but like have you ever been to Coney Island?
Okay. Oh yeah. Wait, they're closing down what? Like
I'm like pretty sure they're closing down like the park, like the theme park part of it. I think I had heard that. I could be wrong. Maybe don't quote me on it. Look it up later. But matter of fact, I'll look it up now.
I've been in this area for coming on 10 years, and I've been to Coney Island probably nearly 20 times. I really like going to Coney Island, actually.
I was there once even. Yeah, I liked it.
Oh, that's okay. My fault. So they closed the Coney Island in Hamilton County, Ohio.
Oh,
completely different. Okay.
Doesn't Requiem for a Dream have a little Coney Island in it too?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they go down to like Score and some dark shit. Different side of Coney Island, I guess.
Right. And since we're talking about basketball movies, I saw Above the Rim for the first time in a decade. I went to this Kian, if you're not familiar, we got a spot out here. We got a dinner theater chain out here called the Alamo Draft House. Okay. And like their whole thing is they show they show new movies, they show indie movies, they do like anniversary screenings, and like they like do like 4K restorations of like old movies. They bring the directors and people in for Q&As and shit. And they were doing a screening of Above the Rim for the 30th anniversary, which first and foremost, top 5 movie soundtracks of all time. Fucking incredible. Tupac's Pain and Warren G's Regulate make that like one of the like Regulate is one of my favorite songs to ever play in a movie ever. But
that's one of my favorite Tupac songs, actually, and I'm not a big Tupac head, but that song's amazing.
Pain is just like you know, like there's like 3 scenes in that movie where like one of them plays when he's at his mom's grave and he's talking with his brother while they're like trying to like figure out what they're gonna do with their lives, and just every time it plays, it just sends me there. I don't know, like that's such a beautiful song. But that movie is just like there's parts of it, there's aspects of it that are kind of dated, I guess, but like the acting's so good. Like Bernie Mac's in it, and like his little, you know, he's only in the movie for like 10 minutes and he just chews up all the scenery. One of the Wayans brothers is in it. I don't know, man. Like Above the Rim is just like so charming, and like, and just like, and also if we're going to talk about basketball, like the actual like choreography of like the playing of basketball, like that's the most convincing basketball I've ever seen played in something that wasn't like Hoop Dreams. And Hoop Dreams is a documentary, so that doesn't even count. But like, yeah, like it's just like you could tell they were like actually playing and like Wood Harris is in it, and like he's just like fucking psychotic in that movie. Like I'm a like seeing him do that and then do Paid in Full, like it's like that's like 2 sides of the same coin. It's Wood Harris is amazing. I'm sorry, I just had to put that out there. But yeah, I love Above the Rim, and thinking about He Got Game. He Got Game's basketball scenes not the best, but like
kind of weak, honestly.
Yeah.
Except the one-on-one scene though.
Okay.
With Denzel and Ray Allen. That's a good scene. I think that's a good scene. But one-on-one, that's so much easier to film than like 5-on-5 action.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, definitely. There's some other I'm not to get too far off track. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Anthony Mackie's in it. Crossover. Either of y'all ever seen Crossover before?
No. I saw Blue Chips. I watched it again this week.
Wow, Blue Chips is crazy.
I love Blue Chips. Blue Chips is interesting now.
Crazy in that movie.
Crossover. Oh my God, Wayne Brady and Anthony Mackie. I have not seen that.
So Crossover is a movie about street basketball. Anthony Mackie and like he has a homie, they play on the same team. Fucking Hot Sauce from N1 Basketball.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's worth watching just to watch Hot Sauce do his thing. Like the basketball choreography is not the best, and the movie itself is incredibly corny, but like it's worth watching because it's just worth the watch. I like to call it like must trash TV. It's like so bad it's good. Go find if you like a good basketball movie, go watch Crossover. It's fun.
What was that one the other year? It only came out like a couple of years ago with Adam Sandler. That was great.
Hustle. That was good.
Oh yeah, right.
I really liked it.
Yo,
I never peeped.
I'm losing the word. It like predicted Anthony Edwards being like a media darling. Like Anthony Edwards was like the quote unquote villain in the movie, and Hernan Gomez was the protagonist. But Anthony Edwards was just magnetic in this movie, and now he's like incredible player and like a great interview and just like an interesting cat. It's kind of wild that they zeroed in on him, and he like. Next 10 years or so in the NBA, he might be the guy. So
that's kind of wild. Yeah, no, like it wouldn't surprise me if whoever's on his team noticed how good he was in the movie and was like, "Oh, we need him on camera like way more often." Like stuff. It's always like really cool when stuff like serendipitously works out like that. Like even to do the reverse, like somebody like Marshawn Lynch. Like you just like how incredible of an interview and like a person he is, and then to see him be in movies. Like I don't know if either of y'all saw Bottoms, but he's the teacher in Bottoms, and he's incredible. Like he's one of the reasons to see Bottoms.
Damn. Like I haven't seen that, but there was that that improvised show that was on Netflix.
The Will Arnett one where he's like the detective. Yeah.
And Marshawn Lynch is in an episode in that, and there isn't even a script, and he's amazing.
He's
Yo,
funny
he's
as shit,
special,
bro.
man. He's
Yeah. Yeah, nah, just like a natural talent. Like he's just because I was listening to Desiree listens to Will Arnett and Jason Bateman's podcast, and he was on it, and we were driving somewhere, and she asked me to pick an episode, and I was like, oh, Marshawn Lynch did one, and just threw that on, and just like he's just that way, and he's just that person. He's just him, and it just works, you know. Like he just, I don't know, Marshawn's special.
There's a classic YouTube video of him when he was in Buffalo, and it's kind of like along the lines of like that like Cleveland tourism video from way back, sort of like, what do you do in Buffalo, Marshawn? And he takes him to a Dave and Buster's, I think, or like, and it's like, and this is like 06, like early in his career or something like that, and he's incredible. But yeah, we've gone down the Marshawn Lynch rabbit hole.
Yeah, nah, man. Yeah. If you're listening, shout out to Marshawn Lynch. Send me a signed box of Skittles if it's real.
Yes.
Send me a signed box of Skittles if it's real. But let's take it to music with y'all. When did music become capital M music for the both of you? Like when did it go from being like a passive thing in the background to like this thing that connected with you on a maybe not spiritual level, but just connected with you, period?
For me, I was kind of listening to music and then listening to hip hop and stuff like that, but the cliche for a reason. The first time I heard Wu-Tang 36 Chambers absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah.
Had never heard anything like it, like the kung fu stuff and just the drums and just how raw it was. It was like so raw. And I think just that made me want to get like decks and a little mixer and stuff like that. So I think the capital M, like the wow moment was hearing that record. And then I think the first time I probably thought I could do it was maybe around in the 97, 98 wave when I was like the kind of indie stuff was happening, maybe the pre-Raucous era almost, and then Raucous era where it was just kind of like,
right.
Like these are dudes like, these beats, this music sounds like something I can make. This sounds manageable. And I think that was maybe the moment I thought I could be involved. I could do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Like I was, I mean, I love Pharoah Monch, like, his first album on Ruckus. I can see the cover. I can't remember. There you go. Thank you. Yeah. I'm so mad I forgot the name, but like I love that album. I listened to I've been listening to a lot of Organized Confusion lately. Like their first album, like Extinction, Stress.
Yeah. Crazy.
God, like that whole album is just so nuts to me. And it's crazy because I was reading an interview you did and you mentioned that you also grew up loving House of Pain and Crisscross, which I really appreciate because like I love Jump Around. That song, like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like every time I hear it, it like that song sounds like Rotten in a cool, funny, like it just sounds like off kilter. It's like one of the first times I recognized that a song sounded weird. I was like, this shit sounds weird, but it just moves. Like it's just, you throw it on and everyone loses their mind.
It is crazy how that song has endured so much. Like it's not even a song anymore. It's like a thing, an anthem, a thing that gets played at events. It's crazy, but and everyone knows all the words, like, and the most random people. So yeah, it's just evolved into something ginormous, which I'm sure when Muggs and Everlast were making or whatever, they had no idea what they were doing. But yeah, it's a wild song. But and the same with I've no like slag Crisscross all you want, but man, that jump beat is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And that was one of the first times like a beat, I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I still to this day reference that beat. I think it's incredible. But yeah, House of Pain's first two records I still really liked. I know they're not technically brilliant, but yeah, I think the production is super stellar on those first two records.
Yeah, like Muggs is so versatile. Like, and it's crazy because he initially tried to give the Jump Around beat to Cypress Hill. And Be Real was like, I don't know what to do with this. you know, and
Wow.
so it's like they gave it back to him, and then he wound up giving it to House of Pain and Everlast and them, and the rest is it. You know, like you
Yeah, it's
cannot go to
crazy.
a sporting, you can't go to like you can't go to a sporting event in the States and not hear Jump Around at least once. Like
Yeah,
a basketball game, a football game, whatever. Like that's like they'll be eating off that in 300
oh,
years. Like
forever, yeah,
you know, that's so dope to me.
yeah.
Mike, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's actually like two people in particular that kind of played a role in it at two different times. So, you know, when you're growing up, you take what you're fed on the radio, on whatever, MTV, I guess it was at the time. But I had a cousin who was in bands, and he's 10 years older than me, and he introduced me to kind of like snotty nosed punk music, like Rancid,
Hey,
No Effects. And that to me made me realize, oh, I don't have to listen to Limp Bizkit. I don't have to listen to Linkin Park. I can kind of curate and get into what I like, because it was fun. No Effects in particular was funny. Rancid I thought was earnest in a way that I liked. And then that kind of kicked me over to Rage Against the Machine, which helped with the hip hop bug. But
right.
then a friend of mine in high school, so this was probably after like 2 or 3 years of being into the punk stuff, hipped me to like Wu-Tang and 90s stuff. Actually, House of Pain too, which is funny. He hipped me to that, and because we were in a band together doing sort of punk-ish covers. And I was like rhythm guitar, whatever. I was not very good, but I guess I was fun to be around or something. I don't know. But so he hipped me to 90s hip hop, and you know, I was a fan of hip hop. Like I liked 50 Cent in real time. I liked Kanye in real time.
Right.
But you know, that was what I was handed. That's what was given to me, and so
Right.
it felt like I was, you know, so similar to the punk, it's not even punk. It's like, it's not even, but it's not quite pop punk. It's like that, like dead in between. And then getting to the rap stuff, that it felt like, oh, I can reach back and become a hip hop head of this era. It was like taking control of my music consumption. And then, yeah, and that just turned into being in the band with that dude. We started doing Rage Against the Machine cover songs, and I was the one who could rap them. And then I was like, oh, I can rap. And so he and I ended up starting a group, putting it together. And you know, it's all, you know, rapping on, you know, the Mighty Healthy beat, and like rapping on,
Right. Right.
whatever we could find at the time. So yeah, but it was, you know, what it was is, and it's always, you know, older brother, friend, sister, whatever, who
Yeah.
hands,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're like, hey, you don't have to take what they're giving you. And you know, there were two distinct moments that I was able to, you know, take control and not be kind of like a passive music listener, and be active and get to know kind of the lore of the groups.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, yeah, no, like I relate to that a ton. I don't I have an older sister, but she's 20 years older than me. So like we weren't in the same house growing up all the time.
Mhm.
But like being like for like my younger sister, I was kind of that. Like we would like give each other stuff, and like and like she would peep game from me, I would peep game from them, all that good stuff. And like, yeah, no, like I'm happy you mentioned Rancid in particular, because somebody had tweeted earlier about the Tony Hawk Underground 2 World Destruction Tour soundtrack.
Mhm. Yep.
And Fall Back Down is one of my favorite songs of all time. I love it.
Love it.
It like fills my heart every time I hear it, and it's because of that. You know, like I would like I would pull in, like I mean like my dad was really into like Motown stuff and like R&B, and like you know, like he dabbled in rap too, but like he's older. He's about to be 79 next week. So like
Mhm.
he was already like 50 plus when I was born. So like his music taste kind of goes back, but he's also like super contemporary. It's kind of crazy. But like my mom was more like the, you know, like more like the my mom was like really into like Aerosmith and like Sting, like really just like big into like popish, easy listening, like hardcore rock from like the 70s and 80s. Like my mom was big into hair metal. And then like LL Cool J and Mace. My mom loved LL Cool J. Like
Damn.
the first LL Cool J album I ever heard front to back was The Definition with Headsprung and Apple Cobbler on it. Like
Damn.
because she played that shit in the whip all the time. So like that was and then that inspired me to go back and find like Bigger and Deffer and
Yeah.
like Mama Said Knock You Out, all that shit. And then of course, you know, like I picked up a lot of like my music taste through like movie soundtracks, game soundtracks, and you know, like stuff like Thug and Jet Set Radio Future. Like, I don't know, man, like those, like, I mean, like I grew up in a musical household because like my dad has been a musician forever, on his grind. So like it was always around, but like I started picking up things from friends, and then like I started getting into like rap and pop punk and hardcore punk and metal and jazz, and just started like pulling in whatever I could find, and it just became, it was like voracious, you know. It just it just, you know, like it just doesn't, like, y'all get it, it just doesn't stop, you know. Like
and when you say and it's kind of interesting, right? Like those Tony Hawk soundtracks were almost like my first exposure outside of radio to like curation of music.
Pivotal, like
super pivotal. Like Tony Hawk 2 in particular for me is one that was really big. But then what's interesting is after I got into the 90s stuff, it started to be the blog era, and that was such a time of curation, and that was like the early Kendrick, the Currency time, and so that also felt like that control over what I was listening to, which was dope. And I think leads up to now, like independent hip hop now, like, you know, you're finding stuff that's not being given to you by Rap Caviar or whatever. And you know, that's the difference between the active music head and the average listener or whatever.
Big time, you know. Like it's like, cause like on that tip, when I first started listening to a lot of music on my own, you know, like I was pulling from like 106 in Park and TRL, and like obviously like all that stuff was great, you know, like that's how I got into Kanye, that's how I got into Jeezy, that's how I got into 50 Cent, you know. And like I was a big Eve fan coming up. Like I was huge into crunk music, I was huge into Lil Jon, I was huge into snap music, them Franchise Boys. I was the biggest Rich Boy fan in New Jersey, I promise you. Like that Rich Boy album was so important to me. I was big into the Clips, you know, like just like every, you know, like I was just like pulling in what they were. And then eventually around the blog era time, through the Boondocks, actually, I discovered Doom, because they played 3 Madvillainy songs in an episode, and then that inspired me to listen to Madvillainy, and the rest is history, you know. Like that's when I went into like the backpack was like choking me at that point. It was pretty obnoxious, but you know, like that was like my trial by fire, and that's why we're here, you know. Like it's and like I think that curation, you know, like you know, like not only is it cool to see that just in a way to like organize music, but like, you know, like that's the stuff that starts you thinking about like compartmentalizing and just like, you know, just like sifting through influences, and that's what creates your taste, that's what creates your style, you know. Like that's how we have NAHreally and the Expert, you know. Like so
Yo, Kian, can I ask, I'm sorry to ask a question, but were you were hip to like Stones Throw in real time, Madvillainy, right?
Right. See,
so I would have been hip to him even as member of Zeb, like when he was Zeb Love X, you know. Peach Fuzz was huge and all that. So like I won't pretend to do revisionist history. I liked the first couple of records, but it wasn't until honestly Madvillainy where I was like, oh, this dude's like another. But like I amn't as in love with those first few solo records as other people are. There was other people on the independent scene, like, you know, and I'm talking about not even raucous stuff, like, you know, talking about the amount of 12s that were coming out from random labels, whether that was, I don't know, Mr. Live or People Under the Stairs, whoever. And I just, like, I liked Doom, but he wasn't on my, you know, top list or whatever. I really felt it wasn't until he made Madvillainy that kind of turned in my head to like, oh, this is a really monumental piece of work. Because I think the previous stuff is crazy raw, you know, and that's what some people love about it. But I think I suppose I was maybe listening for more polished stuff at the time, if that makes sense. But yeah, no, I think that Stones Throw run from like, what would it have been, like 95 probably, was it? But like I remember they put out that little 8-track 7-inch, and then they put out My Vinyl Weighs a Ton. They had the Rasco stuff, like they were really killing it around that time. The Loop Pack, obviously. But yeah, I think you could say it was the Lupac record, but I think it was the Madvillainy record that just blew them kind of out of their normal circles, and like that record really made it huge. But I've a ton of respect for Stones Throw, what they've done, not alone just the hip hop stuff, but I think whether it's I don't know, the Step Kids or, you know, other choices they've made some really interesting signings outside of hip hop, and I really think that's cool that they've done that. Obviously, business wise, there seems to have been a lot of fall offs, a lot of breakups and issues and stuff like that. But, hey, look, that's not for me to kind of care about, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's it's like on the subject of Doom in general, like going back, like it's incredible how much time I've spent with Black Bastards. That second KMD album is like, to me, like it's like up there with like the early Doom stuff. Like I love all those songs. I love the tone of his voice and the way that him and Sub Rock would just go back. Ugh, God, like it just makes me so mad to like hear something like that and then hear like Elektra was like, we don't want this. We're just gonna shelve this for 10. Like I was so furious when I first heard that story. And then like with the Stones Throw thing with because like it was like the Loot Pack, and then I think if I remember correctly, like Quasimodo's The Unseen happened, and like that wasn't like a huge hit. I didn't.
In real time, a lot of what people think that Stones Throw story was like is not really what it was like at the time. I don't think. I really don't. Not that it's been changed dramatically, but a lot of those records didn't have as big an impact straight out the box as they seem to have had. Which is great though. It's great that kind of those albums have been recognized and stuff like that. But like when Loot Pack came out, like people did not like it. Didn't make that much noise. Do you know what I mean? Right. It was like Madlib was just another dude who made beats. These are just kind of seen as like the alcoholic side crew and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like, I think revisionist history has really changed a lot of what that story actually was. But you know,
definitely.
Welcome to the internet age.
Yeah, man.
Same with the Dilla story. You know, same with all that. Like so much of that stories have changed over time. You know.
Right. I was doing a lot of research because I did I wrote liner notes for Madlib Shades of Blue for Vinyl Me Please. And just like going through like the Alcoholics history and the Loot Pack history and like the history of Quasimodo and Yesterday's New Quintet. Like I
will say sorry to cut across you, but I will say from working in a record shop, that when that Madlib Blue Notes record came out, that was actually huge because it was a real crossover for people like hip hop, jazz, kind of cool stuff. It definitely seemed to, that record when it came out at the time was big. Definitely was. It made a big breaking ground, and I think especially in Europe became like a curator's dream, if you know what I mean. I was on mix shows, stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, like just like the idea of like a label being like you can sample whatever you want. And the fact that it started out as a joke too, like Peanut Butter Wolf was like, oh, it'd be great if you just let Madlib raid your vault. And the guy was like, please, like we want that. Like do it. Like make it happen, make the call. And like, you know, like obviously like I didn't live through that in real time or like I was alive, but I wasn't like tapped in. And like, you know, like I think like because Shades of Blue like precedes Madvillainy by I think like 7 or 8 months or something like that, because like it had already leaked by that time, because Doom has an interlude on Shades of Blue where he like mentions the leak of Madvillainy. So it's like that whole time period's like I discovered Madvillainy maybe like a year after it came out, but like going back and like doing the I'm like doing the knowledge on everything is like, I don't know, man, like that time is so ill to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of great stuff around that time that like probably went under the radar, and I think labels that have gone and died and those records aren't on streaming and stuff like that. And I think the power of being able to continue to tell your story, whether that's a Stones Throw or other labels, has been a powerful, I suppose, tool to continue the music, to learn and kind of find new feet. But like there is a lot of great records at that time that are on labels that have died and disappeared, and they'll be forgotten forever. But I suppose that's the way it is, you know.
Yeah, and it's the same way. It's the same way with like the blog era. You know,
Yeah.
like there was my homegirl Nadine wrote this review of Clams Casino's instrumentals, instrumental relics that came out maybe like 2-3 years ago. That on the one that has like I'm God on it, which
Yeah.
like the fact that I'm God exists on DSPs. Like that song was almost lost to history, and it's one of the most important songs of the last 15 years. Like rap doesn't sound the same without I'm God. Also, Clams Casino's from Jersey. He's from Nutley. That's Jersey's finest right there. But my homegirl Nadine wrote something that was like, she said like the history of the rap internet is written in dead media fire links and uncleared samples. And I was just like, you're fucking spitting, right? This it was crazy. Like that's all it is, you know. It's just so sad. Like so many projects that I wish I could go back and revisit in songs and leaks and remixes that like aren't even on YouTube anymore. Like you gotta like know the one person in Belarus who downloaded that shit at like 12:34 a.m. or something. Like, you know,
Yo,
like
there's this one song that wasn't even good that has stayed in my head since probably 2012 or 2011, and I literally can't find it. And I don't know the artist. I just know like a couple lines, and it's just gone. But you know what? It's kind of beautiful. Like I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Like
because that's for you. You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah, the line was I ball like FOOZ, which I like. There's a few other. It was such a bad song. Yeah.
That's so tight.
And it's just in my head. And it was this thing, the Mad Hatter. It was a very jokey song with a really like, if anyone listening knows the Mad Hatter with a song, and it was like a joke song that like for some reason got traction on a few blogs. And I was like, this is so dope. And then it's on an iPod video that's now, you know, smushed up in some landfill, I'm sure. Crazy.
Yeah, man. Like, yeah, before we move on, I remember I got an advanced copy of Wiki's No Mountains in Manhattan because I interviewed him for it when it came out. And the song Baby Girl on it, Kaytranada produced it. Like the version that I got in the advance and then was originally on DSPs, it had a different sample because I went back one day and they changed the beat up. It was slightly, you could tell they like changed the sample for maybe about like a year and a half. I had the MP3 that had the original song, and then I lost the file.
Oh,
it's gone. I like it's in here. It'll never leave. Yeah. And I can listen to it whenever I want.
Better up here, man. It'll never be better. Yeah.
Like every time I hear it, like my heart breaks a bit because it's like this could have been like the original is so much better. And I tell him this. I told Wiki this the last time I saw him too, and he was just like, I wish, bro.
All of this conversation is a huge part of the reason that I can make it possible at all to have an album out on vinyl, that it comes out on vinyl, because then it lives, it breathes, it stays forever. It's an artifact. That's it. And yeah, it may not be as important to every artist nowadays, but for me, it's still really key that exists. It's going to outlive all of us. So yeah, I just think that the artifact is still a beautiful thing.
Right. I couldn't agree more. Like it's just like that's like preservation, like obviously like, you got to talk about like space and stuff. Like Madlib always talks about how he owns, like he doesn't like he doesn't even talk about records in terms of like the number he owns. He weighs them. Like he said in an interview, like I own 4 tons of records. Like like he can't count them anymore. Like that's like obviously you need to have space to be able to do stuff like that. But just like I don't know, like I'm always gonna have space for like physicals and just like because like once again, like they can't erase that. Like you can't you can't take my favorite show off of streaming because I have the DVD. You can't alter this song on streaming because I have the original CD or the record it came. Like that's exactly. Like I'm such a big proponent of that, which is why I love to buy vinyl. And
like I have a kind of dream that when I'm an older man, kids be off listening on streaming or whatever type of way music is consumed, then I'll still have like I've 3,000 records. I'm just gonna like every day just sit down, pick a record, just put it on, so that and I just listen to me, consume music in that way in the future, just going back to them. And like, I know it's very antiquated way of thinking, but that, you know, that's like, oh, let's put on that side D of the Knox album that, you know, is only on vinyl, you know, that type of stuff. So yeah, I like
Oh
that
man.
touch.
That shit is beautiful. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what you prefer, and I think, you know, like I'm with you there. You
Mm.
know, before we get to Blip, I wanted to touch very briefly on like both of y'all's music individually, and I want to start with Mike, because like, you know, going back and listening through all your old stuff, and like, you know, like knowing that you kind of started out with like punk stuff and then moved to rage and then moved to rap. Like I was talking about Hacking Away before, and that was like my first exposure to what you do. And the thing that really impressed me was like your writing style is so droll. Like like you rap incredibly well, obviously, but like your style and like your eye is so droll, and just like I'm a big dry humor person, so like it really just like connects with me when you say things like you know, like just like having the confidence to admit that you prefer plain Cheerios over Fruit Loops is like kind of crazy to me. Like it's like, because I'm a big Honey Nut Cheerios person, but like I don't know, like that's just like that connects with me immediately. You know, like it's very like, you know, you're obviously a very smart and thoughtful person, but you're like your work's not like ponderous or like portentous or like over the head. It's like super duper light, and it's like it's almost like melancholy, particularly Blip, but like your stuff's like melancholy, but it's never like, I'm never depressed listening to your music. Like you'll say things that make me think for a minute, but never to the point where I'm like in a bad mood after I listen. And I know Hacking Away was one of your first times really digging into like making beats as well. So I guess I was just curious, like talk to me about putting Hacking Away together and like continuing to tinker with your rap style while more or less like learning how to make beats in real time, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, so I learned to make beats during COVID quarantines. I knew how. If you way back in my music, there is some self-produced stuff. So I always knew how. Any self-respecting bedroom rapper has made a beat. Come on, let's be real.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
you had to. So I made Loose Around the Edges, the one before Hacking Away, on the computer. And it was sort of I was working a remote job. I'd switch laptops and then make beats on the computer, and it was driving me kind of nuts. And so I said to myself, okay, I want to try to make a self-produced album without a computer. So I got an MPC 1000 and I learned how to use it while I made Hacking Away. And what was really exciting about that was the limitations of the gear. And I actually don't think the MPC has as many limitations as I did when I was making Hacking Away. I just didn't know. And but the nice thing about it was that on the computer, I was manipulating samples. I was making the drums first and then manipulating samples to match the drums. But on the MPC, I switched to listening to music and finding phrases that I could simply add drums to. And so it was kind of like two diametrically opposed ways of making beats. And what ended up happening with Hacking Away was I would find much slower phrases and end up making much slower instrumentals. So there's sort of, you know, I think the phrases that I landed on and ended up using are all pretty driving, but some of the one song's 55 BPM, another one is 62 and a half. I
Wow.
Am Amazing's 55, Hacking Away is 62 and a half. So really plodding slow
Mhm.
instrumentals. And what that allowed me to do with the writing is really stretch it out and say a lot. And so in a lot of times, the flow that I'm doing on those extra slow beats could maybe be read as like 110 or some number that's 62 and a half times two. And the 125. So it was cool to stretch it out. And so the exciting thing about learning how to make beats on the MPC at that time was I was also learning how to use space in a way that I previously hadn't. So, you know, when I get a faster beat, I'm going to fill it in with syllables. I love doing that because I, you know, want to fit in a lot. But it was cool to slow it down and kind of be able to fit in more information and kind of slither as opposed to, you know, kind of be a little bit more downhill with it. So yeah, and I think hacking away was an interesting point in my writing style. I never have really been an abstract writer, but I think in that one in particular, it was fun to like make it feel like it's abstract, but it never actually is. So yeah, it was a cool challenge. And you know, the biggest thing for me that I try to make possible is that each project is a learning experience in some way. So like
Right.
Loose Around the Edges was literally how to make a self-produced thing. Hacking Away, how to make a self-produced thing not on the computer. And then like Blip, for example, is like how to collaborate and make an album. So yeah, Hacking Away was a cool one. And the nice thing is I got a little an extra notch in my belt, or like an extra tool in my toolkit, that now I can, you know, if I'm messing around making a beat on the computer, great. If not, I can pop onto the MPC. And if I hear like a phrase, I take that approach with the MPC. But if I hear a sample I dig and I just kind of have like a drum beat that I want to get out, I'll use the computer. So, you know, it's cool to go through the process of making things and then take something away from it and be like, now I have it forever. So you can't take it from me.
Oh, that's ill. Like, just, you know, like this is a platform all about interdisciplinary like practices. Like that's so cool to me. Just like, yeah, like you don't really hear people talk about like combining a sampler with the computer in that way super often. Like it's always, most people are either like explicitly about the sampler or explicitly about like Fruity Loops or Pro Tools or whatever, you know, like, so it's like, it's cool to me to hear that you're like willing to, you know, combine those two, because like obviously there's like benefits to both and there's challenges to both. So it's cool to, you know, like I think that just plays into like how grounded I think your music is in general. So that's just dope. I just fuck with that a lot.
And I think like, you know, ultimately my self-conception, I'm a rapper first, right? And when I decided I was going to try to make beats, it was kind of out of necessity because I wasn't really, you know, finding producers to work with, and it's hard to DM and not get answered, things like that. And so
it's a necessity thing.
Yeah, totally. And what I ended up developing was a pretty utilitarian production style that I think for me really works, because as soon as something makes me want to start rapping, I just switch over to writing lyrics, you know? And so like, there's like not as much accoutrements and, you know, extra stuff. So my dog's barking, sorry. But yeah, it's just a way to like move and like, you know, start writing.
That's beautiful. I love that, you know? And yeah, nah, Kian, with you, like I know you got your start. Well, I don't want to necessarily say you got your start in creative control, but like I know you did like extensive work as a part of creative control. And you know, like of course, like around like you like as early as like the early to mid 2010s, you start dropping instrumental projects, you know, stuff like Dynamic Drift and Excursions. And I was actually going back and re-listening to some of the Overview Effect that you and CineMasai did. And just like the thing that I love about your style is like there's a fullness to your beats that just like there's like such a fullness to the production that you make. It's so what's the word? Like there's just so much scope and scale to it. Like it feels like there's something like really like mountainous about the beats you make. There's like there's a lot of mise en scène to it. It's just like you just like create, but like that's like all my favorite beats do that. They like create worlds and then like people just kind of come in them and do their thing. And I think there's such a fullness and a warmth to the stuff that you do. It's like, because like there's also like a combination of like more like traditional like sampling elements, and then like there's even like some live stuff in there. Like just bringing all of that together, it just gives it this like full-bodied feel that just like brings the best out of everybody who comes over your shit, you know. Like and then on top of that, it's not like it's the one thing I really despise about like live rap production is there's like an inherent pretentiousness to the idea of like we're gonna do a rap song, but it's with live, you know, like
Yeah.
like not everything's like that, and obviously there's plenty of great live rap, but like it's always in the back of my head, and I never get that, you know, like with you, it's like it's always like these are rap songs made in like the traditional way, quote unquote, you know, and like that's I appreciate not shying away from that aspect of it, you know.
If anything, when I'm creating songs without samples, I'm trying to make them sound like they are samples. So
There
like
you go.
I'm all in on that aesthetic. So yeah, that's just my style, I suppose. But yeah, very much a fan of the golden era age of how hip hop is made, but trying, I suppose, modernize it a bit and put my own twist on it. Definitely want to make it sound like a world, I suppose. My goal is, if I'm making a full album with an artist, my first goal is that it's going to be the best album that artist has done to date. And then I also just try and make it that it's a foot of what's in their past and been in their world and what they're comfortable with, but then another foot's in my world, and we're kind of meshing them and bringing them together. So I'm definitely not so, I don't know what's the word, like arrogant or big-headed to say this is what you do, this you go on, this is my style. Not like that. I want to work and create and make a world that should be their world and that they live in. And I think you know, that's obviously unique to every single artist that I work with. But in the future, you know, that's probably how I'll continue to work. But just to go back to something just that we've talking about movies, I will say recently I watched a documentary, and there's something that has stuck in my head since I actually saw it. It was a documentary about Spielberg, right? And Spielberg, like, I don't know, you can say is the greatest of all time. Anyway, you can talk about stuff, but anyway,
make an argument, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, so he's made tons and tons of amazing movies. People love them, every single one. But at the top level, he felt he wasn't loved by his peers. He wasn't being recognized for the work he was. So he sat down with George Lucas and just says, "What am I doing wrong?" And he just says, I'm making all these movies, everybody loves them, and he just says, you gotta switch out. And so he just said, so sorry, not he didn't, Lucas didn't tell me. So Spielberg said, do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the exact opposite to what I normally do in every single movie. So he decided to get rid of the Steadicam, get a handheld, shot in black and white, made it all juxtaposition, and he made of course the movie that won him all the Oscars, with the Irish actor. Oh my Jesus! The
Schindler's List, right?
Schindler's List, which is basically, if you watch all his other movies and then watch Schindler's List, it's the complete opposite to everything he's ever done. And I just find that a really interesting concept as a writer or a rapper or a producer to kind of approach in a totally different way. And it's definitely something I'm really interested in doing as well. That just approaching jumping out of your box and out of your comfort zone and making something in a different way. So that's the wonderful thing about creativity, I suppose, in general, that there's so many ways to attack it. But yeah, God, I went on a bit of a ramble there, but I want to bring that movie element back because I think that's a really interesting way to approach creativity.
I couldn't agree more, you know, like it's because I mean, like we all come up against those feelings of kind of like every once in a while we all feel underappreciated, and like that is a way to get people's attention, and you know, like just like doing that in a way that kind of stays true to you. And yeah, like that's like, you know, like you look at like you go back and look at everything he was like even just something like Close Encounters versus Schindler's List, like those two, like those movies couldn't be more different in terms of like approach, but like the style and the voice, it's all Spielberg, you know. And like
exactly. And I suppose that's something that, whether it's working with NAH or whether it's with someone else, that my voice remains in the record and that you can still tell, oh, that's an expert record because of and I probably don't even know what those are or what people say there, but like just that there's some elements that are so naturally to my style that they just stand out. It's yeah.
Yeah, nah, and and like I really do think it's that warmth. I think it's that like warmth and that scope, because like there really is like it really does feel like vistas when you listen to your stuff. You know, like it's like I think about it. I used to play a lot of God of War on the PS2 when I was younger, and like the way the game worked, like it had a fixed camera, and every time you would go to a new area, it would like expand the camera out, where it's like the widest shot imaginable, and you see like mountains or trees or like or like a god's ankle or some crazy shit. And like that's what it feels like listening to your beats sometimes, where it's just like you're getting like the full scope of like a world, you know. And
Man, thanks.
yeah, no, like that's like real shit. And you know, like on that note, what talk to me about you guys' relationship. Like when did y'all first connect, and when did you first decide that it was time to make a full record together?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so from my perspective, so Kian reached out to me a while after Loose Around the Edges came out, and said, "Hey, I like this album. Just appreciate you putting stuff out in the world. You know, just a quick, connect." And then we linked up, and then we kind of got talking about working on something together. And the original idea was just to do one song on a like a producer compilation album. So he sent me, I don't know, 3 or 4 beats, whatever, something like that. And I was having a distracted day at my day job, which is remote work. And I turned around a demo really, really fast. And
Real
like,
fast.
yeah, like 2 hours. And that is not, don't let anyone who asks me for a feature hear that, because that is not how fast I usually do stuff. But I turned it around really fast, and it was good. And I was just like, coming out of making my own beats, this was just a totally different sound. And so I was like, ooh, let me get right into this. And then, the expert was like, he liked it, I liked it, and he was like, hey, maybe I could send you some more. Maybe we can work on more than just this one song. And I was kind of like, I got some other stuff going on, whatever. And then he sent me a second pack, and it was just undeniable. I think that bigness, that world building, that, oh my God, what is this? I was sort of like, honestly, a little intimidated, right? And I think MCs can be intimidated by a beat that like begs you to say something. Um, at least I definitely can be. But on the flip side, I was like, yo, this is a golden opportunity to jump on something that's just like totally different than what I had been on to date. And then so I finished up hacking away, basically like the mixing of it. And then we got working. I think we got working like for real, probably March 2022, I think ish. Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Early 22, I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny he says that, because other rappers who, and some we all know here would have said to me before, these beats are too big for me. I actually can't rap on them. So, which is like kind of like, oh wow, okay, fine. Kind of like I don't really know what to do with that information. But it's interesting that some people, that's what they've felt, there's a weight to them. But I think it's kind of, I suppose, up to the artist maybe to do that as well. But anyway, there's a bit of give and take there. But yeah, I basically was at home one day, sitting exactly where we are now, listening to Loose Around the Edges for the second or third time, and I was breaking my shit laughing. I was just here laughing, and my missus came downstairs and said, "What do you listen to?" I was like, "This dude called NAHreally." I was like, I think I gotta get in touch with him. I was like, this is just so amazing. And then I sent him a message too, whatever. And then when he sent that demo back, I remember I was probably just, doing something here, went for a walk, came back, and within 2 hours, I had it back, and I was just like, what the hell? He's written and recorded this in 2 hours. And I was just like, wow, this guy's different. But regardless of whether that would have happened, I just think we had a good rapport going back and forth. And I knew as soon as he said he would take another pack, I instantly knew a couple of styles or songs to make for him that he couldn't say no, basically. And I think maybe in that first batch was I don't know, was it Smarter Than I Am? And I definitely know that the outro beat to Rapper Hands was on it. So
I
that
think
was
more than
originally a
5
full
songs.
song.
I think more than 5 songs on the album was in the first pack of like 12.
Well, okay.
I
Wow.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's crazy that you mentioned Smarter Than I Am, like as an early song, because when I first listened to like when Mike first sent it to me, and I listened to it, like the first thing I walked away from was like, I don't know why, but I just had the intuition that like Smarter Than I Am was one of the first, like that, like that feels like such an anchor song to me, you know, just like just like the concept and like the beat, and like it really feels like oh, this is like the spark that starts the whole, this is the spark that starts the whole fire type shit.
Pretty much
Like
was.
that.
It was
Yeah.
literally. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like yeah. Like I don't know what it was about it, but it just gave me like that type of starter energy. And like in the several times I've heard the record since, like it's still one of my favorites. Like I love the way, like especially like the way the guitar comes in on the hook, and just like it's just like it's like marching to it. There's like it's like there's almost, this whole album, it's weird. It kind of gives me this like Ray Harryhausen, like handmade sort of like stop motion puppetry kind of feel to it that I love. Like I love that type of shit, man. You know, like that, like yeah. So like it's got this very like crafted, handmade, like felt clay, and like Mike, you were talking about like rapping over the like the clips of like the hands for Rapper Hands and things, and I'm like, this is like, it fits the aesthetic so perfectly. Like it really is like the thing that really jumps out at me about Blip as a whole is like, I hate to use this word because it's often seen as like derogatory, but like it's very twee to me in like the most like unpretentious way imaginable. You know, like it's so quaint and so like lightly colored and grounded and inviting. Like even when it gets kind of heavy, you know, like there's so many songs on here that could potentially just tip over into something else entirely, you know, like stuff like just off the top of my head, like I think like All at Once is the one where I was like, this could really go like this, like anybody else could have this be too serious or too silly.
Yeah.
And just like the idea of, you know, like this shit's been happening forever, and we need to understand that like as you know, as important and as I'm losing my words, but like as important as everything happening in history is now, like this is going to happen no matter where we are, no matter where we are, if we're even here, type shit. And like that's a concept that shouldn't be amusing or like light, but the both of y'all just made it work. And it just like that's just not an easy thing to do. And you know, like no, I'm sorry.
So and I think that that's the thing that I find most attractive about NAHreally's style, is that he can, it's a skill not very many can do. Most rappers would make it preachy, or most rappers would make it too jokey, but he just hits the nail on the head perfectly about how to approach a situation that someone can just take it on and really think about it, and then but not so heavy that you kind of like it stays with you. I think it's a wonderful skill he has of how to write a song.
You know what's funny though? That song in particular, and this is a +1 in the column of like working with someone you can work with closely and have honest dialogue with. There was a hook in that song, and it was silly, like silly. Like probably like honestly, if I listen to that, it's like shockingly silly. And I liked it, but I sent it to Kian and he was like, I don't think that will age well. I don't think it's the right thing. I think this needs to go. And he was 300% right. But you know, yeah, like that song in particular, that's a tightrope walk of a concept, right?
Yeah, man.
And you know what? I bet not everyone agrees that the tightrope walk was achieved, and that's totally okay. But there was a version of that song that probably tipped over into too flippant and too silly. And luckily we were able to see that ourselves.
Yeah.
But there's a world in which we didn't, you know? So kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it's like that's like in general, that's just a really tough. It's just like a tough nut to crack, because you don't want to, like you don't want to trivialize or downplay all the horrible things happening right now. I don't say it often enough on this podcast, so I'm gonna say it: free Palestine, free Gaza, free Tigray, free everybody. Fuck all this bullshit happening.
Yep.
But it is extremely important to know and to note that, like, people are dying all the time, whether you know about it or not. And there's like, like you said, as important as it is to keep abreast of history and current events, like there's shit going on in the world that you don't know about and you don't want to know about.
Yep.
Like, like stuff that we can't even imagine, So yeah.
Yo, you know what though? It's funny, the lyrics from that old hook, and I don't want to go too deep into something that's not on it, but I think they hold up because it is the crux of the song. The lyrics were, "We know so much about the world today, just knowing things won't make them go away." Right? And so, and look, we get to
Definitely.
see firsthand, secondhand atrocities, atrocious things, literally in 4K. And it hasn't stopped them yet. And I think there is some level of optimism that comes with being able to see those sorts of things. There's no longer three TV channels that have full control over, whatever messages are getting out. So
Right.
like, this interconnectedness absolutely has brought some, greater awareness. Is a good thing. It really is a good thing. But also at the same time, we get to see them, and just seeing them doesn't make them not exist.
Right. And then, that dovetails with the whole concept of something like Read the Room, which is my favorite song on the project. Because, like that whole thing is, I mean, like, it's not a song that's like about like, it's not directly about like actionable change, but it is about like recognizing, like, not even just when it's appropriate to say something, but like what you should be saying, period. Like there aren't very many rappers who are gonna go on record and say things like, maybe don't be transphobic. Like it's these like basic, like, don't do that maybe, and like maybe we should shame people a little bit more. Like I don't know, like that, like, but like that's actionable change. Like that's at least taking the time and the bravery to be like, hey, maybe you should chill real quick. Like
Yeah.
that's it's a start at
It's
least.
taking
And
a stance. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
like and that plays to like the whole ethos of the album, because you look at stuff like I'm already forgetting which song it was, but just like the one where you're talking about like how like your teeth aren't as sharp as they used to be because you grind them and you're eating pizza. Like it's just like these things, like we all think about these things, just like the stuff that seems like banal or not that interesting, where you just notice like, hey, my foot kind of leans to the right in a way it didn't 2 years ago, or like my knees are kind of fucked up, or like, hey, like I get tired, or like, hey, I gotta take a shit at like 11:45 every morning. Like, what's up with, like just like stuff that doesn't feel important, but it is, because we all go through it. It's important because it's not important. It's weird. And I like that, once again, like, your writing and Experts Beats just like make all of this feel as once again, just like approachable and digestible, but not like you're trivializing it at all. Like it's like, I almost think about it in the sense that, like, how, like, to me, like cartoons and animation are almost like a more real version of like what we see in the world, because we're like creating that and putting it into the world. Like if you see somebody who has like a crazy facial feature, whatever it may be, like you'll see that person and maybe you'll like laugh and notice it. But like if somebody were to draw it their way and make it look away, it becomes that much more distinct and that much more like real to that person's vision. And that's what, and like that's so much of what I get from like, just like whether it's you talking about like rapper hands, like the idea of, I mean, like every rap fan knows what rapper hands are. Like I don't have to explain what that means, or like the idea of just like what's somebody doing behind a window at 12 o'clock and like movement and light, and like if I remember correctly, I think that's the song where you mentioned the title of the album. I think,
Yeah.
right? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool. I like, I've been dreading that I was gonna fuck that up for the last 2 hours. But yeah, like this, like there's just so many little like treasures on this album that just pull me in that way. And like y'all really ice this shit. Like
So
it's just, it's such a pleasure to like, it's such a pleasure to listen to. Like I
I
can imagine myself going through it the next couple months a lot. So
Yo, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate the kind words, you know, more than you can know. And you know what's what's interesting is like it's the beats, the style of the instrumentals that beg sort of like, you know, saying something, right? Which is daunting. And there were moments that like writing it was difficult, but at the same time too, we were able to collaborate close enough that I could share the ideas like, you know, very clearly. He made the beats, I wrote the raps. Like that's definitely what happened. But
right.
there was like, does this make sense? Like, does this, because there were moments where Kean was like, you know, this one's really not doing it. It's not really like, you know, cutting it or whatever. And I think it helped me to go out on a limb with some of those things, like, you know, whether call it taking a stand, making a strange or maybe convoluted point, or trying to make a convoluted point in a clear way. I don't know if I would have done that on my own. So I think it was really helpful to have someone to bounce it off of, just to be like, does this make sense? And so it can be really helpful because a lot of times it's isolating to work on something by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can imagine. And I know that like, I mean, like you've worked with other producers before, obviously, but this is like, this is your first time working with somebody of this renown on this scale. And it shows in a good way. Like it shows that you were, you know, like the both of y'all were willing to take some risks here and do some stuff that, you know, like if in less thoughtful hands, less capable hands, like I can imagine this like falling flat on his face and being not great. But
Mhm.
this is like, there's no moment on here where I'm like, yeah, they could have done that better. Like this is like every song on here is like the best version of exactly what it's trying to be. And that's really all you can ask for at the end of the day. Like everything else is up to personal taste. But like as long as like it's the best version of what it's trying to, if you're not into that thing, fuck it,
Yeah,
whatever. But like,
absolutely. Yeah.
you know, like y'all, like these are the best versions of these. Like I can't imagine a version of like bubble wrap that's better than the version you made, you know, like so yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, yo, for real.
Yeah.
For real.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really been a pleasure to sit with it. And like I said, I'm excited to really like experience more of it. Like just to like live with it, you know, like it's like I like obviously I listen to a lot of music and I always get afraid that, you know, like I'll hear something that's so good and be like, I want to listen to this more, but I just don't have the time. And there's like there's always like a handful of records that you just like that come out year over year that you like make time to go back and sit with. And like
Mm.
whether you're like driving somewhere, walking somewhere, just sitting around, like I listen to music while I game a lot. So like I'll just like, this is like, and like I did that like the 2 times I listened to it, I think I was playing Overwatch the whole time, you know, like, and this is one of those where I'll be living with this one. I can tell over
you.
the
Yo,
next like couple months.
and I've got actually though, yo, it's funny you say the stop motion and puppetry thing because we I got I'm kind of a freak with the videos. I like to make videos and put them to the songs. I've been doing that since 2015. It's just something
Mm-hmm.
I always like to add visuals to. And we've got a full on YouTube in like maybe 2 weeks from now, we have a full like found footage movie of the entire album. Um, so it's like 36 minutes long, the whole thing. And then actually at the show at Wonderville, I'm gonna project the whole thing while I perform. So we got a whole thing, and it's like it's very much like, you know, literally Ray Harryhausen, some other weird puppetry stuff too. So it's cool, and also some like even more random stuff. So you know, it's fun to kind of add. It was fun to add those visuals for like the rollout thing. But then I got on a roll, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep going.
I love that. That's so good. Um, yeah, this isn't going to be out until after the tour is over, or else I would tell people, go see Not Really live. Like y'all will be in for a treat. I've seen you a bunch already, and it's just I don't know, man. Like the rapper hands don't look as weird as you think they do, but it's a cool time, you know. Like you're just such a magnetic performer, and I think it's like this is going to be one of those that I think is really going to stick with people, and it looks like it already is sticking with people. And like, I mean, like I don't need y'all don't need me to say it, but like y'all should be proud. This is truly a great record. Like congratulations.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. And to formally wrap this up, Mike and Kian, if your lives were movies, what would they be about? Y'all can't see their faces, but they both just went like.
I'm gonna go. I think I would go nothing, but looked at from a way about nothing being everything.
Yeah.
Mine would be about some dude like just probably chipping away at something until at the end everyone probably didn't know what this guy was doing over there in this room, and then all of a sudden at the end it all just makes sense. That's probably what my movie would be like.
See now all I'm thinking about is the one meme of like the two people like digging for the diamonds in the mine, and it's like the one person's like almost there and then the other person like quits, and they're both this, but that's definitely a more glass half full version of it, and I appreciate that. We need more optimism in the world, and I think that like like a big part of the reason that Blip kind of works for me is because like like there's problems and issues, whether they be big or small, lined out, but it's not like this is not a defeatist album. It's not like I'm hopeless and I'm gonna go crawl in a cave and die somewhere. Like this is like things are hopeless, but like it's worth
look on the bright side.
Always. Yeah. And like the it wasn't Push Pressure Points. Which song was it? There's I'm already blanking on the name, but
Little
it's the one
Wins,
where
put it on the fridge.
Well, I love that, but it was a song where he's talking about like trying new things and like like look, there you go. Yeah, because like the one line that always sticks out to me is like you could be really good at you could be good at this or bad at this, but like look at how good you are at making excuses, like stuff like that, like that's funny. Like that's a funny thought. Like like, oh, I am good at making excuses. I could be good. Like that's like nobody's thinking like that, or rather like nobody's like rapping like that. Like I can't think of another rapper who would say something like that. And that's like we come to you for that. So
maybe that's a question for an off air, but I genuinely like, not because I've made the record with him. I don't think there's anyone like NAHreally rapping like now. I really can't name anyone like him, and I think it's such a unique way to approach songwriting. And I think for the people that do tap in and like it, they're going to absolutely love it.
Yeah, and like the whole like. I was reading this like big oral history that somebody that I think Slate might have published it about Pitchfork, and the last person they interviewed for it said something that's really stuck with me for the last like month. It was it's much better to have 10,000 people who care about you a lot than 1 million people who don't give a shit. And it's like, like you like if you have 10,000 people locked in with you for life, like that's 10,000 people who are going to hold you down, and you'll be able to make more money off of them than you would off of 1 million people who are kind of like, this is kind of cool, I guess, so yeah. But thank y'all, man. Like this was like, I knew this was going to be a pleasure just coming in, but like, just I love being able to break some of this down, and just like I'm always down to chop it up about movies, but like this I knew this is going to be cool, and this was fucking cool. So like thank y'all for your time, and thanks for the trust, for real.
Thanks so much, man. It's really enjoyable. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, like this is I'm gonna go back and watch The Fugitive, and I'm gonna finally watch Zone of Interest, and we're gonna have to follow up on all of this at some point.
Yeah,
I gotta watch The Fugitive. I don't know if I've seen The Fugitive.
Oh then, man, you gotta watch that.
Is that like a tonight thing?
Oh, like that is a classic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an ASAP thing. Like
Okay.
at least in the next day or two thing. So
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the Black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.